Welcome back to the channel, Rare Coins History, coin lovers and treasure hunters. Today we are diving into one of the most fascinating and beloved coins in American history, the United States of America 1-cent Lincoln Wheat Penny from 1953 with its mint mark. This little copper coin may look ordinary at first glance, but the story behind it, the details of its design, and the surprising value it can hold will leave you amazed. So grab your magnifying glass, settle in, and let's explore everything you need to know about this remarkable piece of numismatic history. The Lincoln Wheat Penny has a special place in American culture. Introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of President Abraham Lincoln's birth, it became the first widely circulated U.S. coin to feature a real person's portrait. For decades, Americans carried this coin in their pockets, used it to buy candy, newspapers, and small everyday items, all while holding a piece of national pride in their hands. By 1953, the wheat penny had already been a familiar part of American life for over 40 years, but each year brought its own production details, mint marks, and variations that collectors still chase to this very day. The year 1953 was an interesting time in the United States. The nation was emerging from the aftermath of World War II and heading into an era of prosperity and growth. The penny from that year reflects this period in history, and depending on where it was minted, it carries subtle differences that can make a world of difference in value. You'll notice mint marks like D for Denver, S for San Francisco, or none at all, which indicates it was minted in Philadelphia. Each of these mints produced millions of coins, but when it comes to rarity, condition, and special errors, the story becomes far more intriguing. On the obverse side of the 1953 Lincoln Wheat Penny, you'll see the bold profile of President Abraham Lincoln, a symbol of strength, leadership, and unity. Above him rests the motto, "In God We Trust," while to the left is the word "liberty," and to the right, the year 1953, along with the mint mark if present. It's a simple but powerful design that captures Lincoln's legacy and continues to inspire generations. Flip the coin over, and you'll find the classic wheat stalks framing the words 1 cent and United States of America, with E pluribus unum inscribed above. Those two wheat ears are what gave this coin its nickname, the wheat penny. They represent prosperity, growth, and the foundation of the nation. Now, what makes the 1953 Lincoln Wheat Penny truly exciting is not just its design, but its rarity when found in exceptional condition. Most of these coins were used daily, passed from hand to hand, and wore down over time. They were never thought of as treasures back then, but today, collectors place incredible value on those that have survived the years without scratches, dents, or heavy wear. A 1953 penny in mint state condition, shiny, flawless, and well-preserved, can be worth far more than its humble face value, but the story doesn't end there. Mint errors are another reason collectors are so drawn to the 1953 penny. Sometimes coins were struck slightly off-center, or the dies doubled the lettering or numbers, creating what's known as a double die error. These mistakes were unintentional, but they resulted in coins that are one of a kind. For collectors, error coins are like hidden gems, unique pieces that stand out from the millions of regular issues. Even a small variation can send the value of a coin skyrocketing. Imagine holding a 1953 wheat penny with a clear mint mark, in nearly perfect condition, and with an error that makes it stand apart from the rest. This combination is the dream scenario for coin collectors and explains why some of these coins are considered true treasures. The joy of coin collecting often lies in searching for these special variations, examining the details, and realizing that something so small can carry such extraordinary worth. And here comes the part you've been waiting for, the value. While many 1953 pennies are worth only a modest amount if circulated, the rarest versions, especially those preserved in pristine, uncirculated condition or with exceptional mint errors, can command incredible prices. One of these highly sought-after 1953 Lincoln Wheat Pennies has been known to reach a jaw-dropping $60,000. That's right, $60,000 for a coin that most people would overlook as just a simple old penny. It's proof that treasures can be hiding in plain sight, tucked away in a jar of old change, forgotten in a drawer, or resting in a family collection passed down through generations. Today we're taking a deep dive into one of the most fascinating and collectible coins in American history, the United States 1-cent Lincoln Wheat Penny from the year 1940 with its mint mark. At first glance, this coin might seem like just another old penny from your pocket change or coin jar, but once you know the history, the details of its design, and the hidden value it can hold, you'll never look at it the same way again. Stick with me all the way through, because at the end I'll reveal just how much this small copper coin has sold for, and I promise, the number will absolutely surprise you. The Lincoln Wheat Penny is one of the most beloved coins in America's past. First introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, it was the very first circulating U.S. coin to feature a real person's portrait. Before that, most coins displayed symbols, allegorical figures, or representations of liberty. Putting Lincoln's image on the penny was a groundbreaking move at the time, and it was embraced by the public almost instantly. By 1940, the wheat penny had already become an everyday part of life, a coin that people carried in their pockets as a reminder of the nation's heritage and the strength of one of its greatest leaders. The year 1940 was a time of enormous significance for the United States. The world was on the brink of World War II, and while America had not yet entered the conflict, the winds of change were blowing. This was an era of resilience, uncertainty, and preparation. The coins minted during this time reflect the materials and the spirit of the nation, and the 1940 Lincoln Wheat Penny stands as a relic from those very days. Depending on the mint mark, it could have been produced in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco. Coins with a D represent Denver Mint, those with an S represent San Francisco, and those with no mint mark at all came from Philadelphia. Each mint produced its own share, but for collectors, the value often depends on not only where it was struck, but also on how well it has survived through the years. Let's talk about the design of the coin, because this is what makes the Lincoln Wheat Penny so iconic. On the front, or obverse side, you'll see the powerful profile of President Abraham Lincoln. Above his head sits the phrase, "In God We Trust," to the left is the word "Liberty," and to the right, the date, 1940, followed by the mint mark if present. This design by Victor David Brenner was meant to symbolize not just Lincoln himself, but the values of honesty, leadership, and unity that he represented. On the reverse side, you'll find two wheat stalks, one on each side, framing the words, 1 cent and United States of America. At the top is the Latin phrase, e pluribus unum, meaning, out of many, one. Those wheat stalks gave this coin its nickname, the wheat penny, and they symbolize prosperity and growth, very fitting for a nation heading into the 1940s. What makes the 1940 Lincoln Wheat Penny especially interesting for collectors is not just the design, but the survival rate in pristine condition. Millions were minted, yes, but most were circulated heavily, spending years moving through hands, pockets, and cash registers. They became scratched, worn, and dull over time. Coins in such circulated condition may still have sentimental or historical value, but in the collector's market, condition is everything. When you find a 1940 wheat penny in mint state condition, with sharp details and original luster, its value rises dramatically. These coins look as if they've been frozen in time, untouched by the decades that have passed since they were struck. Another factor that adds to their value is minting errors. The 1940 wheat penny has been known to produce some fascinating error varieties, things like double dies, off-center strikes, or repunched mint marks. These mistakes happened during the minting process, and while they may have been seen as flaws at the time, today they make the coins unique and incredibly desirable to collectors. Imagine finding a coin where the date looks doubled, or where the mint mark was stamped more than once. That kind of rarity sets it apart from the millions of regular pennies and can make its price skyrocket. Collectors are always searching for these 1940 wheat pennies with rare variations, sharp detail, and minimal wear. The thrill of finding one is like uncovering buried treasure. And it's not impossible. Many people discover them in old collections, jars of pennies saved by grandparents, or boxes of coins passed down through families. Something as ordinary as a penny could turn out to be a life-changing find. Now comes the exciting part. You're probably wondering just how much a coin like this can be worth if it meets the right conditions. While most 1940 pennies in average circulated condition are worth only a few cents, the rarest and best preserved examples, the ones with mint marks, errors, and a flawless state of preservation, have shocked collectors and brought in prices you wouldn't believe. In fact, some of these 1940 Lincoln Wheat Pennies have been valued as high as $65,000, yes, you heard that correctly, $65,000 for a single penny. Think about that for a moment. A coin with a face value of just 1 cent, something that could have bought a piece of candy back in the day, can now be worth more than a brand new luxury car. That is the magic of coin collecting, and it's why so many people are drawn into this fascinating world. Today we are going to talk about one of the most fascinating and beloved coins in American history, the United States 1-cent Lincoln Wheat Penny from 1945 with its mint mark. At first glance, this little copper coin may look just like the pennies that were carried in millions of pockets across the country, but when we look closer, we see that it is far more than just small change. It is a piece of history, a symbol of an era, and for some lucky collectors, it can also be a source of surprising fortune. Stay with me until the very end, because I will reveal just how much this coin has sold for at its highest value, and the number will absolutely astonish you. The story of the Lincoln Wheat Penny begins in 1909, when the United States Mint introduced it to honor the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln. This was the very first time in American history that a real person appeared on a circulating coin, and Lincoln's portrait was chosen as a symbol of strength, leadership, and unity. By 1945, the wheat penny had already been part of American daily life for more than 3 decades. It had passed through the hands of factory workers, schoolchildren, soldiers, and families all across the nation. The year 1945 was especially significant. It marked the end of World War II, one of the most challenging and transformative periods in American history. Millions of American servicemen and women were returning home, the country was shifting from war production to peacetime industry, and a new era of prosperity was about to begin. The coins minted during this time are not only pieces of metal but also reminders of a world in transition. A 1945 Lincoln Wheat Penny carries with it the weight of history, echoing the triumphs and sacrifices of that generation. Now let's take a closer look at the design. On the front side, or obverse, you'll see the proud portrait of Abraham Lincoln, created by designer Victor David Brenner. Above Lincoln's head are the words, "In God We Trust." To the left is "Liberty," and to the right is the date, 1945, followed by a mint mark if the coin was struck in Denver or San Francisco. If there is no mint mark, it was minted in Philadelphia. Each mint produced large numbers of pennies, but collectors pay close attention to those mint marks, because certain ones are more desirable than others depending on condition and rarity. On the reverse side, you'll find the simple but powerful design of 2 wheat stalks framing the words, 1 cent and United States of America, with E pluribus unum written at the top. Those wheat stalks symbolize growth, prosperity, and abundance, which is especially meaningful when we think about America's recovery from the war years and the hopeful future that lay ahead in 1945. When it comes to collecting, condition is everything. Most 1945 wheat pennies were circulated heavily, used every day in transactions for groceries, gas, and other necessities. Over time, the details became worn, the luster faded, and the surfaces collected scratches and marks. These circulated coins are interesting, but they don't command very high prices. What truly excites collectors are the coins that have survived in near-perfect condition, bright, sharp, and uncirculated. Finding a 1945 penny in such a pristine state is rare, and that rarity translates directly into higher value. Even more fascinating are the error coins from this year. Sometimes the minting process wasn't perfect, and mistakes were made, dies were doubled, mint marks were punched incorrectly, or coins were struck slightly off-center. These errors created unique coins that slipped into circulation unnoticed at the time but are now highly prized by collectors. Error coins are like fingerprints, no two are exactly the same, and that uniqueness makes them especially desirable. A 1945 wheat penny with a rare error can be worth far more than an ordinary one. Collectors love the thrill of searching for these rare pieces, whether it's through inherited collections, rolls of old pennies, or jars of coins saved over the years. The idea that a coin once used to buy a loaf of bread could now be worth a fortune keeps the excitement alive in the world of numismatics. Now comes the part you've been waiting for, the value. While many 1945 pennies are worth only a small premium over their face value, the rarest and most perfect examples, especially those with unusual minting errors, have stunned collectors with their auction results. In fact, some 1945 Lincoln Wheat Pennies with mint marks, preserved in exceptional condition and with rare varieties, have sold for as much as $68,000. Yes, you heard that correctly, $68,000 for a single 1-cent coin. It is almost unbelievable, but it shows how history, rarity, and condition combine to create extraordinary value. What was once just a penny carried in the pockets of everyday Americans can now be a treasure worth more than most people ever expect. Today we're going to journey into the fascinating world of one of America's most iconic coins, the United States 1-cent Lincoln Wheat Penny from the year 1947 with its mint mark. At first glance, this coin may seem like just another old penny from a jar or box of change, but once you uncover its background, design, rarity, and the staggering value it can reach in the collector's market, you'll realize why it deserves so much attention. So stay with me until the very end, because I'll reveal just how much this coin has sold for in its rarest and most valuable form, and the amount will leave you amazed. The Lincoln Wheat Penny has long held a special place in American culture. First introduced in 1909, it celebrated the 100th anniversary of President Abraham Lincoln's birth. Designed by Victor David Brenner, it was the first circulating U.S. coin to feature the portrait of an actual person rather than an allegorical figure. By 1947, the wheat penny had already become a familiar sight in the pockets of millions of Americans and was deeply tied to the nation's identity. The year 1947 was a very important one for the United States. The Second World War had ended only 2 years earlier, and America was entering a period of recovery, rebuilding, and new beginnings. Soldiers had returned home, families were being reunited, and the economy was shifting from wartime production to consumer goods and prosperity. A simple penny from that year reflects not only the economic spirit of the times but also carries with it the echoes of history. Each 1947 wheat penny is more than just copper, it's a small artifact from the post-war era of hope and renewal. Now let's look closely at the design. On the obverse side of the 1947 Lincoln Wheat Penny, you'll find the proud and instantly recognizable portrait of Abraham Lincoln. Above his head is the phrase, "In God We Trust," while to the left is the word "Liberty," and to the right, the date, 1947, accompanied by the mint mark. Coins with no mint mark were struck in Philadelphia, those with a D came from the Denver Mint, and those with an S were produced in San Francisco. Each mint had its own production numbers, but it's the condition and special features that determine their ultimate worth. On the reverse side, the design is equally meaningful. 2 wheat stalks frame the denomination, 1 cent, and United States of America, with the Latin motto, E pluribus unum, at the top. These wheat ears represent prosperity, growth, and nourishment, the ideals of a country building a future after years of sacrifice. The simple yet bold design is what earned this series the nickname, Wheat Penny, and it remains one of the most cherished designs among U.S. coin collectors. When it comes to value, one of the biggest factors is condition. Millions of 1947 pennies were minted, and most of them circulated widely in everyday transactions. They were used to buy newspapers, candy, groceries, or saved in children's piggy banks. Over the years, they became worn, scratched, and dulled by use. A circulated 1947 penny might not seem like much to the average person. But for collectors, the story changes completely when one of these coins is found in pristine, uncirculated condition. A coin with its original luster intact, sharp edges, and flawless details can command much higher prices than its worn-down counterparts. Another factor that makes some 1947 pennies so desirable is the existence of minting errors. During the production process, mistakes sometimes happened: doubled dies, repunched mint marks, or off-center strikes. These flaws were never intentional, but they created unique coins that slipped into circulation. Today, error coins are extremely collectible because no two are exactly alike. Imagine finding a 1947 wheat penny with a double date or a mint mark that was clearly repunched. Those details make the coin rare and can dramatically increase its market value. Collectors treasure these coins not only for their rarity but also for the history they represent. Holding a 1947 penny is like holding a piece of America's story in your hand. It connects you to a time when the country was reshaping itself after the hardships of war and moving toward an era of growth and opportunity. It's this combination of history, artistry, and scarcity that makes the Lincoln Wheat Penny so appealing to generations of collectors. Now comes the moment you've been waiting for, the value. While most 1947 Lincoln Wheat Pennies in circulated condition might only be worth a modest amount, the rarest examples, especially those preserved in nearly perfect mint state with unusual varieties or errors, have reached astonishing heights at auctions. In fact, one of these exceptional 1947 wheat pennies with a mint mark has been valued as high as $72,000. Yes, you heard that right, $72,000 for a coin that began its life as a simple penny. It's incredible to think that something so small and ordinary could carry such extraordinary value. This is what makes coin collecting so exciting, the idea that hidden treasures could be sitting in old jars, boxes, or inherited collections, just waiting to be discovered. Today we journey back in time to the mid-20th century America, a time when the world was still recovering from war, industry was booming, and the Lincoln Wheat Penny was one of the most trusted symbols of American money in circulation. Among those coins lies one of the most fascinating finds for collectors, the 1950 Lincoln Wheat Penny with its mint mark. It may look like just another old cent, but its value, rarity, and historical importance make it one of the most talked about treasures in the world of coin collecting. The Lincoln Wheat Penny has always been iconic. Designed in 1909 by Victor David Brenner to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, it replaced the Indian head cent and became a lasting tribute to one of America's greatest presidents. On the front, you see Lincoln's detailed portrait, proud and timeless, with the words, "In God We Trust," arching above him, liberty at his side, and the year of issue stamped clearly. On the reverse, two strong wheat stalks frame the words, 1 cent, giving it the popular nickname, the Wheat Penny. For decades, this design became a staple of American coinage, carried in the pockets of millions, used for candy, newspapers, and even tucked into piggy banks by children across the nation. The year 1950 was no ordinary time. Post-war America was thriving, the country was seeing growth in industry, and new technologies were shaping modern life. In that year, the Lincoln Wheat Pennies were struck at different U.S. mints, the Philadelphia Mint without a mint mark, the Denver Mint marked with a small d, and the San Francisco Mint marked with an S. Each mint mark tells its own story, and collectors pay very close attention to them. A 1950 penny with a mint mark could have traveled through countless hands, yet finding one in pristine condition, untouched by decades of circulation, is a rare and exciting event. Why is this penny so special? Part of the answer lies in its condition and rarity. Many pennies from 1950 were used daily, exchanged over counters, dropped into machines, and carried around until worn smooth. But every so often, a few coins were saved, stored away, or simply forgotten, and when rediscovered in high grade, their value skyrocketed. Add to this the fact that certain mint marks had lower production numbers, and suddenly you have a coin that collectors fiercely compete for. Even slight differences in strike, color, or clarity of detail can turn a simple cent into a prized possession worth thousands. Collectors love the 1950 wheat penny not only for its history but also for the possibility of error coins. Imagine a double die strike where the lettering appears doubled, or a repunched mint mark where the D or S was struck more than once, or even coins accidentally struck on the wrong metal planchet. These small mistakes at the mint have created some of the most valuable coins in American history, and every 1950 wheat penny holds the potential for such a surprise. Think about this: a coin minted over 70 years ago, a coin most people spent without a second thought, can now be worth far more than its face value. This is what makes the hunt so exciting. People all over the world still check their change, dig through jars of old pennies, and examine rolls of coins from the bank, hoping to discover a wheat penny that could change their life. The thrill of finding a coin that others have overlooked is what drives collectors, and the 1950 wheat penny is one of those coins that fuels the passion of the hobby. Imagine you're holding one right now, the smooth copper surface still glowing, the wheat stalks sharp and clear, Lincoln's profile untouched by wear. To a trained eye, this is more than a cent, it's a time capsule, a work of art, and an investment all in one. The beauty of coin collecting is that treasures are hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone with knowledge and curiosity to recognize them. The story of the 1950 Lincoln Wheat Penny reminds us that history isn't just found in museums or libraries, it's often right in our pockets, jingling with spare change. Every coin carries with it the marks of the era in which it was made, the hands that carried it, and the events of the time. For collectors, it's not only about money, it's about preserving these small pieces of history and honoring their journey. Now comes the most exciting part, the value. While most 1950 wheat pennies you'll encounter are worth only a few cents or a couple of dollars if lightly circulated, the rarest examples, especially those in superb uncirculated condition with the right mint mark, have stunned collectors and auction houses. And the highest value recorded for a 1950 Lincoln Wheat Penny with a mint mark has reached an astonishing $77,000.